So today we're diving into something really powerful. It's an ancient cure for a problem that feels more modern than ever, that constant nagging need for validation. This is all about finding real strength, not by getting more likes or more approval, but by learning how to let go of needing it in the first place. Oof, does that hit a little close to home? You know the feeling, right? You post something and you can't help but check your phone again and again. This constant search for validation, it's like being a slave to what other people think. And honestly, it's exhausting, and it's making us weak. So let's call this what it is, the validation trap, because that's exactly what it is. And the first step to getting out of a trap is realizing you're in one. I mean, think about it. The world we live in, it rewards us for being seen. We perform, we get a little hit of attention, and then we crave more. It's this endless cycle. But what's the real cost here? Well, every time we do something just for the audience, we're not doing it for ourselves. It slowly chips away at who we really are, draining our energy, our bank accounts, and our connection to what we actually want out of life. So what's the antidote? How do we break free? Well, it's not some new productivity hack or a trendy app. It's actually a really old philosophy called the way of walking alone. The whole idea comes from this incredible figure, Miyamoto Musashi. We're talking about one of the greatest swordsmen who ever lived. But he wasn't just some brute with a sword. He was a deep thinker, a philosopher who understood that true power, well, it comes from self-reliance. And get this wasn't just some casual journal entry. Musashi wrote the Dokkodo just 1 week before he died. Imagine that. These are the final, distilled thoughts of a man who mastered his craft, and more importantly, himself. It's basically his ultimate guide to living life completely on your own terms. And this is what makes it so radical, especially today. Everything in our society tells us to seek love, to build connections, to depend on others. Musashi just flips that on its head. He argues that real strength isn't about getting love, it's about abandoning the need to be loved. It's about cutting our dependence on what other people think for our own sense of self. Now, to make this idea less abstract, let's look at a story. We're going to talk about a guy named Aiden, who shows us just how deep this validation trap can really go. Okay, so meet Aiden. He's 23, and his entire life is run by this deep-seated fear of being alone or being left out. He says yes to absolutely everything, even when he's totally broke and exhausted. Why? All to keep up an image for these rich friends whose approval he's just desperate to get. And here's where it gets really bad. This isn't just a feeling for Aiden. It has a real, tangible cost. He is literally drowning in debt, buying stuff he can't afford, living a life that is not his, all for that temporary hit of validation from people who probably don't even care that much. And then everything changes. Aiden stumbles across Musashi's Dokkodo. But even more important than the book, he meets someone, a woman named Hana, who actually lives by these principles. She doesn't need anyone's approval, she isn't needy, and seeing her just opens his eyes to a totally different way of being. Reading about a philosophy is one thing, but actually putting it into practice, that's where the real work and the real transformation begins. This is where Aiden starts the practice of solitude. So what did he actually do? Step 1, he learned how to say no. It sounds simple, but it was huge. He started turning down the invitations that left him feeling drained. Step 2, he quit the digital validation game. No more posting just for likes. Step 3, and this one was tough, he pruned his social circle. He let go of those so-called friends who only valued him for what he could do for them. And through all of this, he started to walk alone, sometimes literally. And for the first time, he actually started to hear his own voice. And the result of all this hard work, well, it's profound. And in a lot of ways, it's the complete opposite of what you'd expect. This is how he became truly unshakable. This is the great paradox right here. That desperate need for approval, it actually pushes people away. But genuine self-reliance, that quiet confidence that comes from within, it's magnetic. The moment Aiden stopped chasing people, they started coming to him. Look at the outcome. He was finally free from the fear of what people thought. So he took a risk and started his own business. He started attracting real, genuine friends who liked him for him. And he ended up with his partner, Hana, not because he was lonely or needy, but because he was whole and strong on his own. So, if you boil it all down, this was the fundamental shift. Before, Aiden's entire sense of self was outsourced to the crowd. It was fragile. It depended on what everyone else thought. But afterward, his identity was forged inside himself. It was solid, stable, and 100% his. And look, the goal here isn't to become a hermit and live alone in a cave forever. It's about finding real comfort and strength in your own company. It's about discovering who you actually are when nobody's watching. It's like the quote says, solitude isn't about the absence of other people, it's about the presence of yourself. So, that's the question I want to leave you with. Just think about it for a second. What could you create? What chances could you take? Who could you become if you weren't a slave to what other people think? What could you build with that kind of freedom?